Text 65. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So again, today we are covering Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 16, text numbers 65 to 67, and we'll be covering the story of Garuda and his brothers, the snakes. Divyambara Sharanmani Bhi Paradhyar Apibhushanai Divya Gandanupe Shascha Mahatyot Pala Malaya Pujayitva Jagannatham Prasadya Guda Dvajam Tata Prito Bhyayanu Gyata Parikramya Abhivandyatam Sakalatra Suhit Putro Deepam Adbhir Jagama Maha Tadaiva Samhrita Jala Yamuna Nirvisha Bhavat Anugrahat Bhagavata Krida Manusha Rupina. Kaliya worshipped the Lord of the universe by offering him fine garments, along with necklaces, jewels, and other valuable ornaments, wonderful scents, an ointment, a large garland of lotus flowers. Having thus pleased the Lord, whose flag is marked with the emblem of Garuda Dwaja, Kaliya felt satisfied. Receiving the Lord's permission to leave, Kaliya circumambulated him and offered him obeisances. Then, taking his wives, friends, and children, he went to see his island in the sea. Does anybody know which island that is? I'm sure you've heard it in the classes.
Fiji?
Fiji, yes. If you go to Fiji's own folklore, there's their own folklore expresses that a great celestial, powerful snake had, thousands of years ago, had taken shelter of this island. And there's a certain area where they say Kaliya lives. And there's even, according to some devotees from Fiji, there have been film crews have gone down into the cave and have never come back. And then there's also stories of Kaliya appearing in dreams or appearing as like the protector of the devotees. This happened by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who was manifesting his human-like form to enjoy pastimes. Krida Manusha Rupina. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has commented extensively on this verse. To explain the word Manibihi, Kaliya worshipped the Lord with jewels. The Acharya has quoted from the Radha Krishna Ganodesha Deepika by Rupa Goswami. Kashtubhyo kyo manir yena pravishya hradam anugragam Kaliya priyasi vrinda haster atmopaharitaha. The Lord has made his Kashtubha gem enter the serpent's lake. So the Lord has this gem that he's had since birth, but it fell off in this pastime. And then he arranged for it to be presented to himself by the hands of Kaliya's wives. So they went to their own treasure house, and they gathered gems. And these gems was the original gem of Kashtubha that was actually always present upon the Lord, even in his Krishna's Leela's pastime. At birth, he had this gem. In other words, because Lord Krishna wanted to act just like an ordinary human being, he made the transcendental Kashtubha gem invisible and caused it to enter within Kaliya's treasury. Then when the appropriate moment came for Kaliya to worship the Lord with many different jewels and ornaments, the serpent's wives, unaware of the Lord's transcendental trick, presented him with the Kaustuba gem, thinking that it was one of the jewels in their possession. Any other paraphernalia you can think that came in a similar way? You have the Panchajanya, that he fought the demon in the ocean that kidnapped the Brahmins' kids, and Hare Krishna. And then you have also even Sudarshan Chakra that was granted to the Lord. I think that was from, is it the fire god that they when they offered the fire, that healthy forest, the forest full of herbs, he was feeling. And so the Lord, both Arjuna and Krishna were granted various items. So these items, the eternal items, appear to be granted to the Lord, or appear to be discovered by the Lord in his pastimes. The Acharya further comments that the reason the Lord Krishna is described as Garuda Dwaja, he whose flag is marked by the symbol of his carrier, Garuda, is that Kaliya desired to become Lord Krishna's carrier. Garuda and the serpents are originally related as brothers, and therefore Kaliya wanted to indicate to Lord Krishna, if you ever have to go to a distant place, you should think of me as your personal carrier. I am the servant of your servant, and in a wink of an eye, I can travel hundreds of millions of yojanas. Thus, the Puranas narrate that in the course of Lord Krishna's eternal cycle of pastimes, when Kamsa orders Lord to come to Mathura, he sometimes goes there mounted upon Kaliya. Thus ends the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada of the 10th canto, 16th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Krishna Chastises the Serpent Kaliya. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmuritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shishitanya Mano Bishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutele Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swapadante Kam Katachana Smite Yasmin Dushkaram Shukaram Bhavit Vishmite Viparitam Shat Shri Chaitanya Namamitam. So here at the end, we hear Garuda and the serpents are originally related as brothers. So I'd like to share just a little bit about that so far. You have this pastime in the Mahabharata, in the Adi Parva. And so in the very beginning of the Mahabharata, it starts off with the son of Janamejaya. Starts off the son of Parikshit, who's known as Janamejaya. And Parikshit Maharaj, as you know, was killed by Takshaka. Who's Takshaka? Anybody know who's Takshaka? What does he look like?
Is he the little boy, the cursed Parikshit?
No, Takshaka is the dragon that kills Parikshit Maharaj.
Wasn't it a snake bird?
Yeah, that's what the rest of the world calls that, a dragon. Actually, Takshaka is celebrated in the Buddhist tradition. There are eight dragons that are they're called the eight great celestial dragons, and one of them is Vasuki, one of them is Takshaka, and so dragons are actually connected to the Nagas. Not all Nagas are dragons, but some, I think all dragons are actually Nagas. And so you have Nagas and Sarpas. Nagas are celestial serpents. They have different forms. So they have their kind of snake-like form. Then they have their half, from their waist down is like a snake and their top part is like a human. And then they also have where their whole body is human-like. And so, like, for example, Arjuna married a Naga. He married a snake, a serpentine human-like being, actually appeared in a human form. Also referring back to Buddhism, in the Vedic culture, you'll find that people in India, there are people in certain parts of India that claim descendants of the Nagas. They say our ancestors are the Nagas. And then in Buddhism, they'll say that also that there's in Asia there are descendants from Naga, these original celestial serpent beings.
I think I saw a deity of Patanjali, and he has a serpent body and a.
Oh yeah.
Patanjali, who wrote the Yoga Sutras.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he has that serpent.
That's related.
I haven't read whether and he must, if he has that body, that it must be in that family category. And so there's Kashyapa Muni. He had two wives. One is named Kadru, and the other one is Vinata. These are the daughters of Daksha. And Kashyapa Muni, he married these two sisters, and one of them was they're both very beautiful, powerful, intelligent, but one had a little bit more of like a extreme mood, and that was Kadru. And so Kashyapa Muni offered his wife two wishes. He said, not two wishes. He offered them both a wish. Whatever you wish, I will grant. And Kadru says, I want 1,000 sons. These sons are, I want, it says someone, let me see. What does it say? I'm missing the comment about Patanjali. Oh, I turned it sideways. He learned Patanjali was happy because a partial incarnation of Shesha. All right. And there are two different Sheshas. We'll go into that too. There is a Shesha, as in Laghu Bhagavatamrita. There's a Shesha that's the he's a complete expansion of Lord Balaram. And then there's a Shesha that's a Jiva, who's a soul, that is a Vesh. He's empowered by the Lord. So you have one Shesha, this snake that the Lord lies down on his bed. And then you have the other Shesha. He's holding up all the planets in the universe. And that one is a Jiva, an empowered Jiva. You hear that in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, and you also hear it in the Mahabharata. So Kadru and Vinata, they've got this boon. And so Kadru said, I want 1,000 sons. And Vinata says, I want 2 sons that are more beautiful, powerful, spiritually potent, and massive than Kadru's 1,000 sons. And so Kadru gives birth to 1,000 eggs. These aren't human beings. This is in the day of the Prajapatis. These are the celestial progenitors of the universe. And so she gives birth to 1,000 eggs. And after some time, these eggs hatch, and these are the 1,000 snakes that take birth, headed by Shesha. Shesha was the first one. Shesha immediately left home and went to do austerities. And he was like living on air alone. He was just practicing severe austerities. And also Vasuki he became the head. But these are actually many of them, but not most of them. But there are many of them that are very pure, pious beings. Actually, Shesha, he did austerities, and Brahma appeared to him and said, you're doing such intense austerities that it's causing disturbance. Please let me give you whatever boon you want. He said, I want the boon. I don't want to associate with my brothers. I don't like them. They're so dull-minded. I don't want to, they're always fighting. They're always biting people. They're so vicious. I don't want to be around them. So, some of you might have that experience. You just want to have some good association. So Shesha, if you don't like snakes, don't feel bad. the Lord of Snakes, Shesha. He doesn't like snakes either. And so he was born, and then all these snakes were born. And then Vinata, the sister, became jealous. She's, my sister has 1,000 sons. And so she had given birth to 2 eggs. And these eggs had been put into some kind of special incubator. And she had waited 500 years. And so she got impatient. And she took one of the eggs and she broke its shell. And inside there was this half-formed creature. It was, the top part was fully formed and the bottom part was not fully formed. And he was very angry. And so he cursed his mother. You cracked the egg. I'm not even done growing, and you cracked this egg. And so he said, because of your impatience, you will have to become the slave, the servant of your sister. But if you take care of the next egg properly, and you said you'll have to wait another 500 years, it'll take 1,000 years to incubate. If you take the next egg properly, he will free you from that slavery. And so then, and he had like a bird-like form also. And so that being then flew up into the sky, and he became associated with the sun. Aruna is his name. Like we have this, it's like the first light of dawn. Like you have this song, Udila Aruna Pura Babage, Dwijamana Gora Amani Jage. So this Aruna, the first light of the sun. And so he left, and then so she took nice care of this egg, this Garuda. This is the other brother. And when he hatched, when he came out, he immediately left and he was flying around. And the demigods came and they started offering prayers. Oh God of fire, you are so brilliant. You're so powerful. And then the Lord of Fire said, that's not me. That's Garuda. Now, one of the reasons that Garuda appeared is that there are these sages called the Vaihalikas, and they're very tiny. They're like, it said, like the curve of the thumb. I think it's not even a full thumb size. They're like little dwarf sages, like not dwarf, like fairies, and they subsist on light. And Kashyapa Muni, a long time ago, was performing a yajna, and everybody was assisting. Lord Indra was assisting, and so Lord Indra was carrying. He gathered wood for this yajna, and he was basically carrying mountains of stacks of wood. He was carrying to bring for this yajna. But the Vahalikas they're these sages, and they're not only very tiny, but they're also engaged in intense austerity. So they're not like those who are in this big Kshatriya role, very materially very strong, with powerful arms and powerful body. So these Vaihalikas, they're carrying like leaves and twigs. And at some point they were walking, and then there was a hoof print of a calf, and there was water in that hoof print, and they fell into the hoof print. And Lord Indra just thought he thought these beings are so small and insignificant, and he started to laugh at them. And so they became very angry, and they cursed him. They said, we will create another Indra, another Lord, because Indra means Lord, like Gajendra, the Lord of elephants, or so these are, we will create another Indra, and this Indra, he will surpass you in great strength and power and influence, his strength will basically be however much strength he desires, he will have. It'll be so powerful. And so Indra became immediately humbled. He often goes through these cycles where he does something and then he becomes humbled. So he's offering prayers. And they said, oh, it will be fine. He will be like a brother figure to you. Don't worry. And he will become, his name will be Garuda, king of the birds. So Garuda is born and he goes to his mother and he's like, now when he was born, during the time of his birth, right before his birth, his mother and his sister, so that's Kadru and Vinata, they saw this churning of the milk ocean. So what is this, fourth canto, churning of the milk ocean? And so they saw this wonderful event, and they also saw at the distance the celestial horse, Uchashrava. It's an 8-legged horse, like in Norse mythology. They also have a 8-legged celestial horse. And so this celestial horse is like beautiful and gorgeous and has so many different attributes. And so they saw it from a distance. They're like, wow. And they made a wager. They made a gamble. Sometimes you see that these kind of Kshatriya-like princesses, they'll do these gambles, oftentimes negative, like not money, but rather I'll gamble my own freedom. And so they said, okay, if the horse is, I say the horse is white. If I'm wrong, I'll become your slave to the sister. And the other sister says, well, I say the horse, its tail, the horse may be white, but its tail is black. And so the sister decided to cheat. And so at night she sent her sons. Who are the sons of Kadru? Does anybody remember? The snakes.
Serpents.
Serpents, yeah. She is the mother of the serpents. And so she sent her serpents to become very small and cover the entire tail like black hairs. And so when the dawn appeared and they saw the horse, she saw that she was being cheated, but yes, the tail was black. And so from that time, she became the slave, the servant of her sister. And her sister was quite cruel about it. She would have her sister carry her, like, because Kadru, she could, Vinata, she could fly. She would have Vinata carry Kadru and to places, like carry somebody on your back. And then she would have her son Garuda carry the snakes, the 1,000 snakes, should carry them. They would almost die just from being carried by Garuda, because he would fly so fast and he'd fly really high and the sun would burn them, and they would be praying for protection. And so Garuda asked, why are we slaves to these really miserable people? And so she explained how she was cheated. And so Garuda became very upset. And so he went to the brothers and he said, by what task? By what can I learn? What can I do? How can I be free my mother from slavery? And so the snake said, if you get the Amrita, the nectar from the demigod. So Amrita means death. If you drink the Amrita, it makes your body practically immortal. You can live for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Actually, the substance is so powerful that a normal human being can't even drink it. Like you have this story of Bhima Should we tell a little story about Bhima? A little sidetrack story about Bhima? Okay, so Bhima was basically, and he was practically invincible. Well, one time, his mother was holding little baby Bhima, and he was moving around, and he fell down off a cliff, and he went, and the baby tumbled down, and he destroyed the rocks below. He was so powerful, and so his brothers decided to kill him, and so they gave him poisoned food, and they gave him a massive amount of poisoned food, and he ate it. It didn't seem like it was having any effect, and he was having all these. They're playing in some water sports. He was playing all day long, picking the brothers up and throwing them, the cousins, the evil cousins. They were hand feeding him the poisoned food. They're personally feeding him with such nice care and devotion, stuffing his mouth full of food with poison, and he didn't expect anybody could be so cruel. And so eventually the poison took effect, and he got sleepy. And so they tied him up. They threw him into a river, and into the river he fell down, and he went through a type of celestial passageway. And he entered to the abode of snakes, and the snakes started to bite him. And the snake poison was the antidote to the herbal Ayurvedic poison. So the snake's poison counteracted the poison that he was fed, and then he slowly began to wake up, and he was surrounded by aggressive snakes, and he started to fight them, kill them here and there. And then one powerful leader came and told them all to stop, that this is a great personality. And they offered him this nectar. They said, we think you're powerful enough to drink this stuff. Ordinary human beings can't drink it. And then Bhima immediately chugged down 7 pots of this Amrita. It was so powerful. And then he fell asleep as the nectar started, affecting his entire body. And then he returned home, and he came home. He had the strength of 1,000. Well, he already had such great strength, and now he had like more than 1,000 elephants. Like became extremely, extremely powerful. It's I don't know if you know the comic. What is this? There's this Marvel comic where this character has a skin where it's like impenetrable. And so in the comic, his brother tries to kill him by sending him to prison. But in the prison, he gets all these scientific experiments done on him, and he comes back home 1,000 times powerful. So it's like they took the story from Bhima, basically. So he came back 1,000 times powerful. So back to Garuda. So Garuda asked, and the demigods, the snake said, go get the Amrita. If you get that Amrita, then the snakes didn't want to do this. They didn't actually want to do the cheating. It was the cruel mother. She when she instructed them, go on the tail and become like the hairs on the tail, become like black hairs. And they said, no, we don't want to do that. And then she cursed them. She said, I curse you to die in the great sacrifice. You will be burned alive all in this great sacrifice. Now, I know this story is going all over the place, but you may remember that Parikshit Maharaj was killed by Takshaka, this great serpent. The venom of his venom was so powerful that it burned his body to ashes. It says that some of these snakes their venom is so powerful that as soon as it gets contact with air, it ignites into fire. So it looks like they're breathing fire, but it's the power of their powerful venom. And so, because Takshaka, this dragon snake bird, was the cause of the death of Parikshit Maharaj, the great devotee, his son vowed to make a sacrifice and he would suck. He would call all the snakes throughout the universe into the sacrifice and kill all of them. And so Takshika was, so Janamejai, he went through this sacrifice. So she cursed him that all of you will die by this sacrifice. She cursed the sons. And this curse, Vasuki, Vasuki was the one who was used for churning the milk ocean. He was a pious snake. He was not, didn't have the nature of these other snakes. He engaged in austerities. He was endowed with great piety. And so he was quite alarmed by this. And he said, sometimes curses, they can be counteracted, but if you get a curse from your own mother, and this curse was said in the presence of Brahma. And he said, Brahma didn't do anything. And so he was warm. He said, if there's a curse that's presented in the presence of Brahma, also there's a curse by your own mother, both of these things can't become counteracted. We'll just speak of those two events combined. And Brahma, at the time, he was worried that actually these snakes had become too powerful and they are threatening the lives of so many. There was no balance in the universe because these snakes were too powerful. But it came out that actually the pious ones would survive, and those who are very aggressive, they would be drawn into this fire. And so those snakes told Garuda, if you get me that nectar, because you get the nectar, you're going to survive anything. You survive a fire, you survive so many things. Get us that nectar, and we'll become extremely powerful. We will, as soon as you get that nectar, we will free your mother from slavery. And so Garuda, he flew to his father, Kashyapa Muni, and he said, what should I need to eat something. I haven't actually, I need to eat something if I'm going to fight the demigods for this nectar. I have to have, what should my food be? And he said, your food could be, there's two sages that are brothers, and they had some quarrel, and they became a giant, Herculean giant tortoise and a Herculean giant elephant, and they've been fighting for ages. You can take those two. And so Garuda came and he picked up this, and this elephant was like 900 miles high or something. It was like some massive elephant, and long, and then there's the tortoise, and they're constantly fighting. And so Garuda just took both of them with his claws, and he started flying all around the universe, trying to find a place to perch. And so he went to the heavenly planets where they have these massive, massive trees, and he went to land, and the trees started calling out, don't land, you will destroy us, you'll destroy us. And then finally he went to the Gandhamandana mountain there, and then there was a giant banyan tree, and this banyan tree said, you can land on me, I will be able to support you. And as soon as he landed on the tree, he had this extremely long branch, and he broke the branch. And so then he went to the mountain. Then he went to Gandhamandana mountain, and he finally perched. And he ate the tortoise, he ate the elephant, and he flew to fight the demigods. And so yes, question.
Yeah, it's miraculous how many details you know, and these stories are just chock full of adventures and mystic powers and curses and different kinds of contestations between living entities. I'm a little slow, and Srila Prabhupada kind of spoiled us. He tells a story slowly, and then for each verse, he gives a purport and draws a line between this detail of the story and how wonderful is Krishna, and also how it applies to our life in devotional service to Krishna. We may see a principle of somebody cheating somebody else, and then he'll explain that, we have a choice to have integrity or to be selfish, and that actually better end of the spectrum. We're serving Krishna and benefiting others. So I'm catching all these details, and it's overwhelming. And I'm hoping that you'll use your brilliant, articulate gift to like explain some of the principles behind these stories, besides all the 6,000 details that we heard today already. I'm overwhelmed, and I can't. I'm trying to like process. Therefore, I should do this. Therefore, Krishna is fantastic, and we should appreciate Krishna. So it's the stories. I see your excitement, and but I'm also have to confess that I'm a little bit overwhelmed. I'm sorry, maybe that's not such a good contribution.
No, thank you. So one of the important aspects is that the pastimes of the Lord and the pastime of the devotees are full of life and excitement.
Yeah,
and we're generally glued to our TVs looking for some interesting story, some interesting pastime. Srila Prabhupada makes this point that previously he didn't have to even know how to read or write, because all of the media of ancient, going back, he said in the purport 70 years ago, which is probably 100 years ago, he said all of the or not more than 100 years ago, like 110, 120 years ago, all the entertainment in India was sastra, these pastimes. And in these pastimes, we develop an affinity for affinity for the personalities. We develop affinity for Krishna, and we develop spiritual knowledge. We develop this gyan and vairagya, knowledge and detachment, just by hearing of both Krishna's pastimes and the pastimes of his great associates. And so previously, even you find in India, the South India, you look at the films that are black and white films, most of them are all pastimes of Venkateshwar, or some Krishna pastime, or Tukaram. 1937 film Tukaram, it won an international award. It's a beautiful film about the disciple of Lord Chaitanya, Tukaram, who liberated the whole land, the Marathi-speaking land of India. And so when one watches these or hears these, there's all this katha. It basically it pulls the heart and mind, and it attracts the soul to the supreme attractive being. So a little point there. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, keeping us on not just stories, because we could just hear it all as just stories. Oh, Peter Pan, just whatever story. And actually, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, the introduction to Krishna book, he says that Krishna's pastimes are attractive to everyone, to the materialists. Oh, look at this romantic, like, oh, look at that. And he therefore instructs us. There's a purport, I think it's second canto, chapter 7. I believe it's chapter 7. It's the last purport of the chapter, and it's Prabhupada is repeating the point that is given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And this purport is, he says that we should hear the pastimes of Krishna related to his external energy. So that's his, his universal form, his avatars in this world, before we focus on the pastimes with his internal energy. As long as we are under the influence of the external energy, then we have to hear about God's interaction with the external energy. And then when we are then liberated, then there is a focus of Krishna's actions and the internal energy. And therefore you would hear Prabhupada's lectures. He would talk about the external energy and Krishna a lot, interacting with the external energy, such as his avatars, or how this external energy works. And it's not that we avoid the pastimes of the internal energy, like Krishna and Radharani and the gopis and the cowherd boys, because we need to have something that we have, some kind of star that or some kind of pole star, something that is giving us some direction. So it's not an avoidance, but there is definitely when it's the weight goes towards the pastimes that of related to this material world, and also the entanglement of this material world. And so in Burijan Prabhu's, not Burijan, in Bhanu Swami's translation of the verse that is presented by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the way he translates that last verse of the second canto, chapter 7, I believe, he says, when the living entity describes Maya in relation to Krishna, then then that living entity gets liberated from Maya. And so,
in my next life, I want to be Nityananda Chandra Prabhu's son or daughter. He won't teach me read or write. I'll just be telling stories. I'm excited for this. Nityananda Chandra Prabhu. We have a question from Bhima Prabhu. It's probably about this 8-legged horse. And then Andrea wants you to finish the pastime.
Okay.
She'd never heard that before.
Okay, so Bhima Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Haribo Prabhu. Listen, just go on with the, much more important for you to go on with the pastimes. There's a common meme saying, Adi Purush always says, how wonderful is Krishna? And so here we have it. As Prabhupada said, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. A fool's dictionary. So we are aware that all things are possible, all things are glorious, all things are wonderful in Krishna's pastimes, and we don't, if we just allow these, as you have said, to soak into, absorb these stories, we find the little child within us come alive and understand that the adventures and the wonders and the powers that Krishna manifests are so much more engaging and absorbing than the trivialities of our contemporary Kali Yuga lives. So onward, storyteller, onward.
Right. So as Adi Purusha Prabhu mentioned, I think we'll have darshan and then we'll just finish the story.
And yeah, after Glow, yep.
Oh my goodness, Krishna. Purusham Amaham Ami Vinukanda Aravindadavaya Taksam Avatam Sampitam Purusundaranga Andarpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham. How do you turn this around? How do you turn it around so that you can see what we're showing?
It's okay, you're able to see this.
Good morning. Hey, Hare Krishna. Welcome home. Hare glad to see you.
Okay. Nityananda Chandra Prabhu, the afterglow here.
So yes, as Adi Purusha Prabhu mentioned, it's important to kind of have this grounding. Otherwise, we say little Krishna cartoon, and then we may just take it actually as a cartoon. We just may take it as something. Peter Pan adventures, or we may take our attraction. Like our attraction is that, I must be great devotee because I'm attracted to these pastimes. But we're also attracted to Peter Pan. Anything that actually, as Prabhupada said, the materialist is attracted doesn't mean that the person has now become great sadhu, very advanced, because Krishna's, this very name means all attractive. And so Garuda, he flies, and with his wings, he creates a massive dust storm. And he then Indra calls Vayu, the Maruts. The Maruts are the one of the wind gods, and he blows away the dust, and they all start fighting. And they're attacking, and Garuda basically decimates all the demigods and is fighting all the demigods. And then he goes to, there's a fortress there's a vault. There's a fortress that they keep the nectar in, and it's surrounded on all sides by fire. And so Garuda manifests 90 times 90 heads, 8,100 heads, and swallows up the Akshay Ganga, the celestial Ganga of the higher planets, and then spews that all over the fires and puts out the fires. And then he enters into the fortress, and in the fortress there's this machine with blades that are spinning, these thousands of blades that are spinning really fast. And Garuda becomes extremely small, and then he spins with the blades, and he goes through the machine. And then inside he sees these two blazing serpents, and they're so venomous that even just by an ordinary mortal being to look at them would just set your body on fire. And Garuda, he begins to fight with those serpents, and he wins, and he takes this pot of nectar. Now, somebody you find, if you found like the super soldier serum or something, some kind of thing that makes you super powerful, you might, like, let me take this, Captain America serum. Let me take a little bit of this before I give it to, give it to the snakes or whatever, give it for my mother. There's enough for everyone, but he didn't take any of it. And Lord Vishnu is taking note of this, that he's like, it's selfless. He's just doing this out of his love and care for his mother. And so first Lord Indra comes as he's flying away. Lord Indra throws his invincible weapon, the Vajra, mighty thunderbolt. The thunderbolt, which is described in the Bhagavatam, this weapon was built together by the bones of Didichi Muni, this powerful sage. The demigods once went to the sage and said, please, we are in need to fight another great dragon. What's the name of this other dragon in the Bhagavatam? His name is Vitrasura. He is also celebrated as a dragon. And no weapon can pierce his armor. Nothing can pierce his neck, nothing. And so they built this weapon called the Vajra. And he said, can you give us your bones? He said, well, I'll die if I give you my bones. And they said, well, you're a great sage and saintly person. That's probably not such a big deal for you. And so this powerful weapon, he shot it at Garuda, and nothing happened. And Garuda said, I respect the great sage Didichi Muni, and I also respect you, Lord Indra. So because of that, I'll drop one of my feathers. But this weapon actually didn't hurt me. And Indra's like, how powerful are you? He said, well, the wise say one should not speak of one's glories. But I would take you as my friend. So I would just to answer your question, I could support this entire world with all of its, mountains, rivers, and all beings on one of my feathers. And he says, but I have to take this nectar. I have to free my mother. He said, but I will bring it there, and you can just steal it back. I just have to bring it there. So Lord Indra's like, okay. And so he flew back, and he took this pot and put it on a mat of kusha grass. And he said, look, I have brought the immortal nectar, but you first should all go take a bath, go shower, celebrate. You know, this is sacred. This is very special. And so while they said, okay, we will free your mother, and we'll go shower. We'll go take a sacred bath. And that at that time, Indra came and he stole the pot of nectar. Actually, before heading back, actually Garuda met with Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu, he didn't even know who Lord Vishnu was. He didn't know. This is the story of his appearance. And Lord Vishnu said, "Oh, he was attracted by the selfless nature of Garuda, and he offered him a boon." And he said, may I always be above you. And so Garuda is Garuda Dwaja. Krishna has his flag. You know, his this Dwaja, this flag that he has above him on his chariot. Or the Lord Garuda may fly above. And then he said, and he asked Krishna, Vishnu, he said, would you like a boon? He didn't really know. He said, I said, you are a lord. You are like the lord of this world, I believe. But can I offer you something? And he said, yes. Can you be my chariot? Can you be my carrier? He said, yes, I will be your carrier. And so then he went back to his, he brought the pot of nectar. And, Indra stole it. And the snakes, they were so upset. And so, and also he offers Krishna, yes. And at some point he meets Lord Brahma as well. And Lord Brahma, he asks him, what should I be, he asked a boon from Brahma. And he says, I just want those snakes as my food. He's like really upset. The brothers who imprisoned his mother said, because it had not been decided what shall be his food. He's a carnivorous being. He said, so what shall be my food? He said, I know what my food will be. It will be snakes. And the snakes, thinking that maybe some of the nectar fell on the kusha grass mat, started to lick the mat, just if they can get a little bit of that nectar. And kusha grass is very sharp, and so it said it cut their tongues, and therefore that's why snakes to this day have this bifurcated tongue, this being cut by the kusha grass. So his mother was freed. There was also a sage, Vasuki had given his sister, Jarat Karu, to marry a sage named Jarat Karu. They both have the same name. He was a celibate sage, and he did not want to have anything to do with marriage or anything. But his ancestors told him that they're suffering because there's no lineage, there's nobody doing there's no descendants doing piety, and the descendants actually do great piety for their ancestors. That's why having a child is considered an important duty in the Vedic culture. You have in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is really worried about the destruction of the family dynasty, because there won't be any children, properly trained children who care to do things for their ancestors. Like you see in these ancient cultures, you have the Day of the Dead. You have in Japan where people are going and offering rice and incense at the cemetery. There's all these ceremonies, and specifically in the Vedic culture, they would offer Vishnu Prasad to the ancestors, and the ancestors would be benefited from not only being saved from the karma of bad actions, but also being it would fuel their stay in higher planets. It would be like helping them out. And so the sage Jaratkaru, he saw his descendants in a vision, his ancestors in a vision, and they're all suffering. And they said, it's because you didn't have a child. You didn't do anything to take care of us. It's like, and so he said, well, I would only marry a wife if she has my name. And so the snake Vasuki, his wife, his sister married Jaratkaru. And so she was a sage. She was a snake and he was a sage. And that the son of them, those two, the Naga princess and the sage, he was the one that helped stop the fire sacrifice that was killing all the snakes in the universe. His name was Astika. And so there's more. This is Mahabharata is crazy huge. And if you get the Krishna Dharma version, which is like that thick, you're not going to get any of these stories, because the actual Mahabharata is like ridiculously huge. It's massive. It's I heard it's the largest book in the largest novel in the world. There's was it 1 billion words in the Mahabharata? So you have all these little stories there. Actually, all Mahabharata starts with the fire sacrifice done by Parikshit Maharaj's son trying to kill all the snakes. So that's a little bit about Garuda and how his brothers, it says in the purport, his brother, the snakes, are like, how is a bird related to the snakes? So these are his half brothers. They're both sons of Kashyapa Muni, but the Kajru is the mother of the snakes, and Vinata is the mother of the king of the birds.
Nityananda Chandra, great class, Prabhu, great class. You inspired Jamuna Jaya to do a Garuda pose.
Oh. And see, Garuda is celebrated. Garuda is the national symbol for Bali, for Indonesia. He is what is the best economic airlines in the world? Garuda Airlines. Garuda Airlines was celebrated as the best economy airlines.
How are they doing in terms of safety?
What do they do?
Are they safe? We understand they're like the most affordable, but.
And they fly to Bali. Garuda is very much celebrated in Bali. You get these Balinese Garuda Murtis. They look so fierce and fantastic. You see this symbol of the eagle fighting the snake. Where do you find that? You find that everywhere. You find that as a symbol of Mexico, celebrating their Aztec origins. It's kind of a piety overcoming darkness.
See, Adipusha Prabhu, Nityananda Chandra Prabhu is drawing the line here for you between the airlines and the story. We hope this is pleasing. We should set up an evening Bhagavatam class and have Nityananda Chandra Prabhu speak every night, and everybody will be tuning in from their bedroom, from their bed. And Nityananda Chandra Prabhu will be telling stories and putting us to sleep, and we'll have Krishna conscious dreams. Right?
Andrea has a question.
I'm so sorry. I missed when his mom got saved. So, how did his mom get saved if he tricked the snakes into taking it off so Indra could take it?
Yeah, as soon as he brought the nectar, they're like, "Oh, your mother is free."
Oh, I see.
Then they took a bath.
They didn't have to do anything. Oh, I see. Okay. Sorry, I missed that part because I was just like, okay, and then his mom, and then that's awesome. That's awesome. I've never heard this pastime before, so thank you so much for sharing it. And I wrote in the chat, you were like Sherazad, like it just felt like the story into another story, into the other story, and it was so captivating. And I really appreciate it, especially because I was really called to Krishna consciousness by the prasad, by the kirtans, but also very much by the stories and by that personal aspect of getting to know Krishna and then by that extension, his devotees and the other like entities that kind of take part in his pastimes. That's so personal to me, and the fact that I grew up Catholic and I loved the stories. Like that's just what kind of went into my heart. And then later on, you learn the philosophy and you understand, why it's important. But at the same time, you have to get captured in your heart first. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shahrazad Das Prabhu ki jai.
So as we mentioned earlier, we have this kind of balance between the Leela and then the practical aspect. Otherwise, we can take the stories as just some nice fairy tales, or Peter Pan adventures, and therefore, like we have the first canto, second canto, third canto, fourth canto, fifth canto, sixth canto, seventh canto, eighth canto, ninth canto, and then we have Krishna's pastimes. Because then we realize, okay, this is not Peter Pan we're talking about. This is the being that universes come out of his pores, and like, so then we have this great awe and respect, and when we see, okay, if Krishna's leaving in the middle of the night to dance with these girls, it can't just be, it's got to be something deeper than that. You have the great celibate ascetics of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan are diving into this stuff. It must be something more than just a romance adventure.
Thank you very much. Nityananda Chandra Prabhu ki jai. Krishna Lila ki jai. If anyone has a question or a comment, we can take one more, and then we'll go on to practice what we heard in class and apply it. My takeaway is that some snakes have like human-like bodies. I never heard of that.
Yeah. Like wife. Arjuna, he married the Naga princess.
Yeah.
She kidnapped. Remember, he was taking a bath, and she appeared in the river, and there's and like took him away.
Nice.
Oh,
I think I married a Naga princess too. Okay. Any questions, comments?
And they would have many of them have gems on their forehead. These celestial, there's sarpas. There's regular snakes, and then there's celestial snakes, and they would have gems on their forehead, and the gems would glow because they would the poison in their fangs would ignite with the air, and so they would be breathing look like they're breathing fire, and it would ignite it would reflect off the gems. But some of them are very pious. They do austerities, but some of them are very vicious, and so like we said, the Lord's great associate Shesha didn't like the snakes. It's like, why are you doing austerities? Because I don't like snakes.
Isabel says that she knows many snakes with human-like bodies, and Jeffrey Eckler says just like us. Are you a Naga, Jeffrey Eckler?
Maybe on my mother's side.
All right. Okay, this was a wonderful class. Thank you, Nityananda Chandra Prabhu again. Beautiful class, details, principles, everything is covered perfectly. Thank you very much. Dear devotees, for tuning in, for contributing to this class. Have a wonderful day. Come again tomorrow. Srimad Bhagavatam never ends. This story never ends. And don't take Krishna as a cartoon. This is an instruction from Nityananda Chandra Prabhu. Krishna is not a cartoon. Not a principle either. Krishna is a person. There's incredible depth behind the pastimes. So thank you very much for that, Nityananda Chandra Prabhu. Hare Krishna.